The House Education and Workforce Committee will come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chair DeBoer.
Here.
Representatives Linting. Here. Paquette. Here. Fox.
Present.
Coons.
Here.
St. Germain. Here. Pavlo. Wilson.
Here.
Colzar.
Here.
Weiss. Burns. Madam Chair, you have 8 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Vice Chair Linting moves to adopt the minutes of the March 4th meeting. Without objection, the minutes are adopted. To begin today, the committee will take up House Bill 5697, sponsored by myself. This legislation was written in consultation with the Michigan Department of Education. It mandates the science of reading training for certified K-5 educators, support staff, and administrators. This is not the only piece of the puzzle when addressing Michigan's current literacy issues, but it is a very important one. According to the U.S. Department of Education, 76% of Michigan's 8th graders are not rated as competent in both reading and math. I believe reading issues are contributing to chronic absenteeism, causing students to drop out, causing or worsening student mental health issues, contributing to educators leaving the profession, and a factor in poor math and science scores, as students have difficulty reading and understanding narrative math problems. Addressing this problem is one of the most critical issues facing our state today. In additional testimony, but now we also are joined by Dr. Maleko, our state superintendent, who is joining us by Zoom on a tight schedule to testify in support of this important legislation. We welcome Dr. Maleko, and we'd like you to please begin. If we can start the Zoom. He's not on. Okay. Let's go at ease because we want to be ready when he gets on here. He only has 5-10 minutes, so enjoy your inner thoughts. Whatever.
Yeah, if you want to go at ease.
Gentle at ease. Go to the bathroom if he wants to. Great. We're coming back on. Dr. Maleko is about to appear on Zoom, I hear. Dr. Maleko, we're so glad you're here. Thank you for making time to appear for this committee. Thank you, sir. Oh, wait a minute, we can't hear you yet.
He's muted.
Mute it button?
He's muted.
Doesn't say it's muted.
Oh,
It's,
It could be his. I had some.
yeah, he's not muted on our end.
you're not muted on our end.
He is just down the street, so should block here. That's what's happening. There's somebody's on in the
Here's a fearless tech volunteer. Thank you, sir. Okay. We turned it up as much as we could.
Yeah, can you hear me now or no, you cannot?
Yes, we can. Yes. Thank you.
Yes?
Yes. Yes, we.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes, you have a
Okay.
voice. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chair DeBoer. Really appreciate it. And I'm sorry I can't be there in person. My schedule was so tight, but we had Karen and everyone fit it in because this is very important. And I've really appreciated the positive collaboration that you and I have had in a few meetings already. So I'm honored that you bring me before your committee. And I really appreciate it because I think this is an important topic. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. So we
So
introduced the bill. while you were not on, so go ahead
Okay.
with your comments.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And again, I'm sorry that I don't have that much time, but I do appreciate and I want to honor the important work that you do on your committee. Literacy, and we've put it out in our legislative letter, and I've been talking about it since I started, and I'm very excited to partner with all of you. I want to work with anybody that puts students first, that's going to help students. And, that's from educators to administrators to your committee to Democrats to Republicans to the governor's office to, teachers and working together. And I think it's important enough if we really want to drive the needle to come out with, we know we have local control in Michigan, but I believe with the literacy, we have some strengths, but we have a lot of room for improvement with where we need to go. And if we want to make improvement for the sake of students and the outcomes, then I believe, the budget that we're asking for in supporting your bill with mandatory letters training is very important. It's important enough, and even in my role as state superintendent now, but I was a local superintendent of a large district, and I built great relationships with superintendents, and I was president of the Michigan Superintendent Association, and a lot of times they get concerned with mandates. But in this case, it's important enough, and I've already talked to a lot of my colleagues on that area, and that's why I really appreciate this so that we can fund this mandate. If everyone I've talked to says, yes, let's get behind the literacy, it makes sense. And so I really appreciate you taking this on with your bill. I believe that, the letters training has seen the highest rankings from MDE as far as the quality. It's very intensive training that teachers would have to go through. So that's why we kind of want to support them with what we call the carrot. I know it's a mandate, but it's how can we provide the funding to districts to make that happen? I know the governor's recommendation had $50 million. We were very pleased to see that recommendation in the budget. And so far, we have about 6,300 teachers that are trained K-5, and we have 5,600 that are currently taking the class and are enrolled. In order to get everyone trained, it's about 44,000 teachers statewide, K-5. And so it is very intensive. It's a 2-year program. So it is a lot of work on behalf of the teachers, but we know other states have seen effectiveness with this training, and the science of reading is very important. The different components. I was an elementary teacher, and I just want to say that I believe, the phonics, the science of reading, having those teachers so they can move the needle for the sake of the students. And we really do. We really need to come together. And I feel really positive, and I know Representative DeVore, we've had very good conversations about this. I've come before Representative Kelly's committee, and I've talked to leaders in the Senate, in the House, and others, and that we all need to get behind literacy. And was very pleased too. The governor's State of the State. The first part of that was all about education and literacy, so that was very positive as well. So I just wanted to come in and provide support for this, and thank you for taking this on because it's very important as we want to put students first for all students across the state of Michigan.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking time. Would you have time for a few questions
Sure.
if we have some?
Sure.
That'd be
Yes.
great. Okay. Any community questions? Representative St. Germain.
I actually have a couple. The teachers that have already completed the training, is there one specific provider that's being used, or are they able to choose between providers?
So it's Lexia that we've been using for the letters training. So it has been one provider that we're using that provides that training.
Okay, and just one.
And the letters is, yes.
When will current teachers, take this training? Do they do it in district days, or do they have to complete this on their own time? When do teachers have the time to?
Yeah, so that's what we're working with district leadership on. We have a few models. For example, Waterford Public Schools had an implementation of how they get it done. And that's where concerns of superintendents and principals would be, and teachers. Well, how do you find the time? So there's been different models for how it's done. In some cases, it could be done during the day with district release time and or a combination of substitute teachers. But in other cases, in a model I've seen that's been very effective, it is after hours, but teachers are getting compensated for it, for their time. Because we obviously have to value teachers' time, the important work they do. And so it is intensive. So we need to make sure that, we've seen a few districts in different examples of how that was done that were very successful. And I do want to say, too, that I met with teachers from across the state just before the governor's state of the state. There were a couple of teachers that honestly got very emotional about the letters training, and I had no idea that this was going to be the topic of conversation. And they said the reason that intensive training was so important is because it really did make a positive impact on their students that had challenges with reading.
Okay. And just one more question. So you said 6,300 teachers have completed. It might be too premature to say, but are you seeing any improvements with literacy scores?
Yeah, I mean, right now, on a state level, yes, we've seen, we know we want to improve the NAEP scores. So it is kind of early in the process. And I always say it's a marathon, not a sprint. And what I would say is states that have used this, I mean, they moved to it and they stuck with the same process in literacy and instructional techniques and training for over like a decade in some cases. Now, we don't have that much time to wait. But what I am going to say is if we, with local control, one of the things I think we see in Michigan is districts are doing different things. And if we really want to get behind one thing, this would be something that I think is important enough. So I don't have direct data yet. But we will be collecting that data, rest assured. And we know that other states have had very positive data when it comes to that.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If for some reason the legislature doesn't fund this mandate, would educators still be required to take this training? I don't know if that's for for you or for the bill sponsor, whichever.
That's a question. I believe that if we want to be effective, we need to fund it. I get the fact that you could do a mandate, but that's going to make it a lot more difficult if it's an unfunded mandate and put a lot of strain on districts. And it'll be very hard to implement it and get it done in a positive manner, which the intent is to support students. It'll put a lot of stress on districts if the mandate comes in. And so that's why we would appreciate funding tied to this. And that's why I was excited to see and the recommendations coming out of the governor's budget with the $50 million that was designated for this science of reading training.
Yep, and the bill says that the legislature would pay for it. So we'll work on that.
Okay. Thank you
Yes,
for that clarification.
yes. Representative Weiss.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your testimony. I have a bunch of questions, so feel free to cut me off at any point.
Okay.
Madam
Well,
Chair.
he may be the one walking out. He's got the schedule.
So I 100% appreciate the intention behind here. I have specific questions though about some of the language and also just potential unintended consequences. So one, just to get an understanding, do we know how many teachers this bill would be targeting in terms of how many more teachers would need to get this training in order to comply with the bill?
Well,
There is, I have the data. It was like 44,000 total left to be trained, 44,000.
And who's within that cohort, Dr. Maleko? Is that all K through 5 like administrators and teachers, or is that just teachers who are directly teaching literacy?
That is all K-5 educators.
Okay. So I would suggest, and it would be helpful, I think, to have a better sense of cost here, because my understanding is that the governor's budget just was suggesting funding for the program itself. And you mentioned paying people for their time, which I 100% agree with and think we have to do and figure out how to do. That would be a lot more than 50 million. If we were talking about compensating 44,000 teachers for their time to get that training. I believe it's 160 hours, roughly, if I'm remembering correctly, for letters training. So I'm wondering if we could maybe try to prioritize direct early literacy instruction first to get those people trained up and maybe do this over a longer period of time.
Oh,
It's just a suggestion. And then also I noticed in the language that it specifically targeted long-term subs. And I'm very concerned about that, just coming from the classroom and knowing how hard it often is to get subs. A lot of substitute teachers are not even direct district employees. It might just make it harder for districts to be able to get and retain subs if we're adding that hourly requirement of training for those subs. So I wanted to flag that
Yeah.
concern too. And then the other question I have, and then I'll stop. If you have time, you can come back to me, is around the implementation date in terms of hiring. Obviously, like there's everyone who's enrolled right now, those 44,000 teachers who have not had the letters training, the goal is to get them all trained up by, I believe, 2030. But there's going to be more people coming from out of state, more people graduating who will not have had that training or transferring from one district to another. So I just wondered, like, what the long-term plan is there. I know Representative Kelly introduced a bill around adding a requirement for higher education. Are we looking at doing that in tangent? And is there going to be a longer term plan for people coming from out of state as well? Thank you.
Yes, we will.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're working on another bill for out of state, and we will be addressing the higher ed at our next meeting. Okay. Yeah. Representative Fox.
And
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony, and thank you very much for this bill. I guess, and I know that Rep. Weiss and I often share the same concerns in education. My concern is how are we spending money right now, and are there ways that we can reapportion money to focus on this, because this is so important? You know, and the areas I would wonder about are, what are we doing in literacy training right now, you know, in our schools, and can we redirect funds there? And also, are we getting too top heavy in our public school system? And can we revise our administrative costs to focus them much more on classroom costs? So those are my two big questions that I think we need to wrestle with.
Yes. And you're directing those at Dr. Maleko?
Are you? I'll take answers from either place, but I think we need to wrestle with you know, how we're currently spending money, and can we redirect, and are we too top heavy?
Well, the decision about budgeting would be for the appropriations people, and that's why we're trying to get this on the table now, so that we can sail it over there for them to consider how to finance this training, and to do it as well and as quickly as we can. How many people you have in the administration of each school goes down to the district decision and how they want to appropriate the foundation allowance that they get from the state. I don't think we can legislate how many people you can have in your administration of a school district. We can? Oh,
Well, just to
Yes,
follow
sir.
just to follow up, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Coons was at the same meeting with me in northern Michigan. We had an agenda that was a page long with administrators, okay, and school board leaders, et cetera. And it predominantly was focused on funding and I will call them social issues. Not one word about literacy, about math scores, about improving our student achievements. And that's very, very sad to me, okay, that our administrators are focused on, well, how can we get more money? Because, you know, bottom line, we're throwing more money at something here, okay? And, you know, we've got lots of money that we're spending already, and can we refocus that money is my bottom line question.
yep. Would you care to speak to that, Dr. Maleko?
Sure. I mean, you know, as superintendents in local districts and teachers, you're always concerned with the time and how you can reallocate. One of the things that this is one of the reasons why we're trying to say, because we know we're a local controlled state, but this is important enough to say, yes, we need to do this on a statewide level for, exactly maybe some of those things you're mentioning. But I would also so say, like, when it comes to mentioning about administration and top heavy, I always say, let's go to the data then. Let's look at the numbers, because this had happened when I was a local superintendent. And then I would pull the numbers at my chief financial officer, and we were way below the percentages to comparable with other districts and or other states even. So that would be the thing that I would always say, because I've heard that said a lot. And my pushback would be, okay, let's see the numbers and the actual data so we can look at that. But I do believe that it would be very difficult to get this, to move forward with this on a statewide level if we did not get the funding. And if it's important enough, then we need to, fund it for the sake of our students. But we can always, I mean, at local levels, administration is accountable to boards of education. So if there's things that are going on that, the local community is not happy with, that's the accountability mechanism within those local districts.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Any other?
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Representative Colazar has one. Do you have a second more? You have a short one?
I can try to be and it might be best for the sponsor. We'll see as I go here. Actually, majority of my questions, thankfully, we have been asked by several members of this committee, and I appreciate all of you for it because this is very important. So my question has to go back to the time it takes to do the proper training. My understanding is you're talking roughly 17 full work days if you do the complete training. I appreciate the idea of a stipend. I think that's a good idea, but teachers have families. They may have to go home, see their children, pick them up from daycare, whatever it may be. So or in some cases, if they're not being compensated enough, they might be going to another job. So my question is, we put a lot on our teachers, and I'm afraid this just becomes another thing we're asking when other things have not been removed. So my question is, I'm supportive of the concept, very supportive. I co-sponsored the bill. My question is how do we make this work given the time allotted to make sure that they have time to do the proper training?
In each district, Representative Colazar, and I appreciate the meeting we had last week too, and the collaboration, and I'm with you. Like, what can we take off the table? We need to do that. There's pressure, and these are intensive jobs. They're very important jobs, but like you said, teachers have families as well. And so we need to respect that with not, the compensation, but also honoring their time. And that's why we do have some examples of districts that have done it on a broader full district level. And so we're going to tag into some of those ideas as we share, and we're going to work with at the MDE to provide guidance as to how for districts how you can get this done. I would also plan to leverage my relationships with the different association as well to get support, the union groups, the MEA, AFT, also MASA, superintendent associations, the principal associations. I'd want to work in collaboration with them to get their ideas to help develop a very intensive plan to make sure that we are honoring what you just said. So although I don't have all the, in this short testimony, all the answers right now, I can tell you that we're rigorously working on these kind of areas in the plan. And just, again, very appreciative of the time. And I have a higher level of respect for all of you and the work you do to represent the citizens of Michigan. And then, of course, in my area, all the students in Michigan. So, I just wanted to say I appreciate it, and because I know I have to go, I'm a little bit over on my time, but it was important enough for me to come and speak before you. And this issue is important enough. And I did grapple over the mandate as a superintendent. I'm going to tell you, it was like but it was important enough as I came into this role. And I could just tell you, even in Dearborn, we were doing our own science of reading training that started prior to this. It came out right after the Read by Third Grade law in 2016. And it hit the components, but it just wasn't as rigorous when we reviewed the letters training. And now Dearborn is moving on the letter. It happened just after I left, but they're also moving in that direction. So that's why I do believe it's important enough. And I go back to that story of that teacher that I met with that was almost teary-eyed to say, this training really helped our students. And what do we want to do? It's not just the success of reading at the elementary, but we want kids to graduate and then be successful after graduation, so that we can help the entire Michigan community as students enter the workforce. We want more kids in college programs, CTE, and other things. And this is the way to make it happen by starting at a young age. I was an elementary 3rd and 5th grade teacher, so I understand the challenges with your time and other things that go on. And I was a principal in middle and elementary school. So, I appreciate the questions. There are definitely things we have to work through. And I assure you that we will put the people together in the room that will make this happen. And we may deal with issues as moving forward, but again, it's important enough, I think, to get behind this and work together. And again, appreciate all the work that you all do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maleko. We appreciate
you.
your depth of experience and your willingness to tackle this. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair DeBoer. Have a great rest of the week, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. So we are so grateful for his willingness to come on there and be full leaning in on this issue. So I look forward to working with Dr. Maleko, the State Board of Education, and the department on this critical issue as we move forward through the legislative process. Reading skills are foundational to education, and we all must come together across party lines to do what we can with educators and students' families to reverse the student reading decline that we've been experiencing for some time. With the passage of the dyslexia package last session, our state took a major step forward to help struggling students and educators. That package mandated the science of reading-based instruction. Currently, teachers are not mandated, but are encouraged to complete LETRS training. And currently, as Dr. Maleko said, 6,300 Michigan teachers have completed that training, and another 5,600 have started it. And this bill will reinforce what we started in the dyslexia package. Other states have already used widespread science of reading training to make notable improvements in reading, the best known being the Mississippi Miracle. Mississippi implemented a multifaceted strategy for enhancing kindergarten to 3rd grade literacy beginning in 2013. Their legislation, the Literacy-Based Promotion Act, focuses on early literacy and teacher development. It includes teacher training in the science of reading and teacher coaching. The legislation requires teachers know, understand, and provide instructions based in the science of reading to include phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. The law provided K-3 teachers with training and support to help students master reading by the end of 3rd grade. It includes provisions for reading coaches, parent communication, individual reading plans, and other supportive measures. It also includes targeted support for struggling readers. Students repeat the 3rd grade if they fail to meet reading standards, which has been a controversial issue in our state. Some examples of states that required all teachers to engage in the science of reading training include North Carolina, South Carolina, Indiana, Louisiana, Minnesota, Utah, Mississippi, and Georgia. In Mississippi, following the training of all K-3 teachers in the science of reading, their 4th grade reading scores improved from 49th in the country in 2013 to 9th in the country in 2024. In Alabama, training contributed to a significant shift towards structured literacy practices, with early pilot data showing that 97.2% of the participants improved their knowledge, resulting in higher reading outcomes for students, especially when taught by a trained educator over multiple years. In North Carolina, training has demonstrated a significant impact, including more than 250,000 students reaching benchmarks and 18% gains for certain K-3 student groups. In Oklahoma, districts such as Enid Public Schools saw rapid gains. Within 8 weeks, students needing reading remediation dropped from 34% to 23%, and 73% of the students achieved reading proficiency by the year's end. That is amazing. I'll now discuss some of the specific content of my bill. It's amending the revised school code to require kindergarten to fifth grade public school teachers and administrators to receive science of reading training by the 2029-2030 school year. The bill requires the Michigan Department of Education to approve a single provider to offer professional learning that must do the following. It has to be offered through a system of training that provides educators with a knowledge base to effectively implement any class-wide supplemental or intervention reading approach and to determine why some students struggle with reading, writing, spelling, and language. It needs to provide training activities that direct educators to implement effective reading and spelling instruction supported by scientifically based research and foster direct, explicit instructional sequence that uses techniques to support teachers' independence in using this newly learned skills with students in the classroom. Also, it has to include integrated components for educators and administrators in K-5 with embedded evaluation and assessment of the knowledge. It also needs to build teacher content knowledge and pedagogical knowledge of the critical components of literacy, including how the brain learns to read, phonological and phonemic awareness, letter knowledge, phonics, advanced phonics, vocabulary and oral language, fluency, comprehension, spelling and reading, and the organization of language. There's a lot going on with reading. We have to support educators in understanding how to effectively use screening, process their monitoring, and using diagnostic assessment data to improve literacy outcomes through prevention and intervention for reading difficulties in a multi-tiered system of supports. The multi-tiered system of supports must include team-based leadership, a tiered delivery system, selection and implementation of instruction, interventions, supports, and a comprehensive screening and assessment system, and continuous data-based decision-making. They also need to include optional train-the-trainer facilitator, professional learning, to be implemented at the discretion of the MDE. Participants enrolled in facilitator professional learning must have demonstrated successful completion of the required professional learning. The bill requires 2 reports, one from MDE with district-level information and implementation, which also identifies areas of progress and need. The MDE will also be required to recommend policy or funding adjustments, if needed, to support full compliance by the 2029-2030 school year. The second report is from the provider selected by MDE and contains the numbers of teachers who completed, enrolled, and withdrew from the program, as well as program budget information. It's my hope that together the reports will be used to provide accountability and allow the legislature to provide proper oversight through annual hearings. As I previously stated, the bill is a K-5 mandate, not a K-3 mandate like some states have. I really felt that K-5 was needed given the ground we must make up with our older students. They have value too, and I don't want to leave them behind. Lastly, the bill also requires the legislature to annually appropriate an amount sufficient to comply with this act. This training isn't an insignificant expense to the taxpayers, but I felt we need to discuss this potential option. This initiative may end up being handled like a budget implementation bill or entirely in budget boilerplate when all is said and done. My goal here is to work with you, the MDE, and stakeholders to have a sub ready for next week, so this issue is front and center before budget season. I don't want this to wait for another budget season. Next week, I plan to take up House Bill 5646, sponsored by Representative Kelly, which addresses the issue of science of reading training in bachelor's level educator programs. How the legislature acts on improving reading will have a profound effect on children's lives, the public education system, and our economy. We can do better, and we must do better. If not us, then who? And if not now, then when? We have now some video of teachers that have been using the training and their response. If we could cue up that combination video, that would be great. We just so appreciate the tech
Hi,
department.
my name is Tiffany Wynn. I'm a first grade teacher at Jesse Loomis Elementary in the Saginaw Public School District, and I love letters. It has completely transformed the way that I think, plan, and teach literacy in my classroom, and it is single-handedly the best professional development I've ever received. What I like about letters is that it breaks it down. It breaks down reading into small, manageable chunks for teachers. So no matter what your college background was, no matter how you were taught to read in school, you get all the knowledge that you need to teach kids how to read and write. So one of my favorite things was the Scarborough's reading group, where you take language recognition and, language comprehension and word recognition, and that combined makes reading comprehension, and of course it breaks down each strand and how to teach it, and if a child is struggling, you can pinpoint exactly what it is and what you need to do to move them on to the next step.
Hi, my name is Mary Durbin Bean, and I am a third grade teacher in Brighton. I enrolled in letters because I'm of the generation of people who all of our undergraduate work, graduate work, and Masters Plus 30 was in balanced literacy. The only professional development offered by my district in all of my years prior to letters was an ineffective literacy instruction. I joined cohort 1, and from the very first day, I knew that I would finally have the ability to help every child with whatever need they had, whether it was remediation and intervention or exposing them to more advanced skills. It was life-changing, both for me as a teacher and for the children in my care. I would recommend letters training to any and all people who are involved in the lives and the education of children. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lynn Stover, a literacy coach in Stevensville, Michigan. My letters journey is a little different than most. I began because I needed to know more about the science of reading. I wanted to make the best impact for my students that I could. I wanted to have positive impacts on their reading, their spelling, and their language. I did that first through the 2-year course. Then, because I was a preschool administrator at a previous position, I took the Letters for Early Childhood Educators. Great course, great benefit for any early childhood educator. And now, most recently with my position, I am taking the Letters for Administrators. In each of these, I have learned so much about how children learn to read, what components might be missing, how we can best close some gaps for our students here in the state of Michigan, not only in the short term, but throughout their life. This is life-changing work, and I hope that you'll join me.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Lincoln. I am a kindergarten teacher at Loomis Elementary in Saginaw Public School District. I enrolled in letters to strengthen my understanding of the science of reading and to learn strategies to help students develop foundational literacy skills. Letters has improved my instruction by helping me be more intentional and efficient during my reading instruction, allowing me to better tailor lessons to meet the individual needs of my students. I strongly encourage other educators to participate in letters and to embed these strategies into their reading block because it truly supports students in helping them become strong, confident, and successful readers.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Adams and I teach 5th grade in Lansing. I took letters training when the district offered it. It was an opportunity for me to understand better research of how the brain and literacy come together. I was able to understand that there are so many aspects of literacy, not just phonics. It has helped in my 5th grade classroom as we have tackled multisyllabic vocabulary and how writing and reading really make a connection. I think that educators would benefit from letters training as a whole, because it will just increase our scores and really help us understand how kids learn and how they read and write and how we can better serve all of the students of Michigan.
Hi, my name is Haley Butler, and I'm a kindergarten teacher in Stevensville, Michigan. During the course of my letters experience, I've gained confidence and a better understanding on how to best teach the youngest readers in our school. Because letters does not focus on a single curriculum, but rather broader concepts for early literacy and beyond, we really can take this material from the letters training and apply it to any curriculum in an explicit and systematic way, which we know is the best way for all children to learn. I really encourage anyone that can take letters to take it, not just because of those application practices, but also the emphasis on using data to support our instruction. We know that by looking closely at data and making decisions for what each individual student needs, it's just going to help the student as a whole. This has been really meaningful for creating Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction, and I'm excited to see where it takes me in the future.
Hi, my name is Mary Kane, and I'm an interventionist in Niles, Michigan. I've been a teacher for about 40 years. I took the letters training because I want to be the best teacher that I can be for my intervention students. During this training, I learned about the science of reading. I also learned very actionable instructional routines that I could apply to my classroom right away. I think every teacher should take this training because it's a one-stop shop. Everything that you need is there. You no longer have to search different podcasts or books or articles to find what you need to know about reading comprehension or fluency or phoneme, graphing, mapping. What you learn, you'll be able to immediately apply to your classroom. Also, I really appreciated that the instruction I received I could use with all of my intervention students, K through 5. So let's do our best for our Michigan students. Thank you.
My name is Dana Peoples, and I am the reading specialist at Voyager Academy in Detroit, Michigan. Although I have not taken the letters training myself, I am responsible for signing up 3 of our teachers for the January cohort. We also acquired 1 teacher who was already a part of a cohort from another district, and I have 3 more teachers who have signed up for the May cohort. My lofty goal is to get our principal signed up for the next cohort. And the reason being, I have faith in the letters training program because I know that we all need to be speaking the same language in terms of the methods of how we teach reading to our students. We have all come, and when I say we, I mean the teachers at my school, have all come from different backgrounds, different educational pathways, some from traditional certification routes and some from programs. So I know that it's important, especially after going to the Governor's Literacy Summit and witnessing what happened in Mississippi when universal training was implemented. So that is my goal for not only our city, our state, but our nation, is that we're all saying the same things, teaching the same ways, so that we can get our students on the same path.
My name is Carol Allen, and I teach 2nd grade in Niles, Michigan. I enrolled in letters for the simple reason of our kids are not reading, and there had to be a better way to teach them. I learned so much from letters. Of course, the phonics is necessary, decoding, but you need the whole package. You need to have the listening comprehension, the vocabulary, and core knowledge. And I think the one thing I learned that just really made me think was it is so much easier for a child to learn to read if he knows the meaning of the word he is trying to read. I believe that letters improved my instruction dramatically, not just in my literacy block, but in everywhere. I bring in everything I have learned from letters into all subjects. We work with morphology. We focus on vocabulary. We look at, the comprehension of what is being asked of us. Letters provided all of that. I would encourage every teacher to take this course because it makes you feel confident that you actually can make a difference. You can help these children to learn, and you will go into your classroom with surefire knowledge of the how and the why this works and how you can help your children.
Okay, is that the last of it? It's probably the end. Okay, yes. No dramatic finish, but she was very articulate. She probably wouldn't like that last photo, but anyway. We had 9 educators, and this was put together very quickly with just a couple days' notice with an all call of, would you like to speak? And all of these teachers clamored forth to produce a video because they care so much about helping these kids learn, and they are so excited about the difference that this training has made in their ability to connect with these kids and to prescribe. You know, it's kind of like a medical person has to learn how to diagnose, but once you diagnose, then you also have to know what the prescription is to handle the problem. And that's what this training seems to do for the teachers, that they have the confidence of defining exactly where this child is getting off the rails, and then they have an understanding of how to get them back on. And how empowering is that? Oh my goodness, you know, I find myself smiling and nodding along with them like it's a real conversation, but it just makes your heart sing, you know, when a teacher is making an impact on a kid. And it makes me emotional too. I can't help it. It's so exciting. This is what you go into education for, to turn that light bulb on for these kids, and for the whole rest of their life. They don't walk away from a book, they go toward it. When they get an instruction manual at work, they don't have to get the third grade dumbed down version. They can understand it right away. They can help their other employees. They can be effective in our economy. It's their whole lives we are talking about with this change with the teacher, in being able to be empowered in this way. So I'm going to have to let other people talk. Representative Coons, would you like to ask a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 5,600 teachers have done the training. Who's paid for that, and why do we need to get involved now? If it's already being done, let's just stay out of the way.
I'm not sure where that funding came from. Does anyone know?
We paid for it.
Out of the budget, right?
Out of the budget, yes.
Oh, good.
I don't know that we paid for stipends, but we paid for the training itself out of the budget.
So we're already paying for this.
Yes.
So why do we need $50 million?
I can't answer that question. Are you, well, again, it's your bill, Madam Chair. So feel free to jump in.
It's a friendly committee. We're all friends. Yeah.
I think the idea is, my understanding is the idea of the bill is to get every K-5 instructor trained and administrator, and there's about 44,000, as that was the question I asked Dr. Maleko. There's about 44,000 additional that still have not received the training.
Very good. Thank you both.
It's going to be a continuing process, right? And that's why we're trying to get this done before the budget as well, for considerations of what else we need to do. Representative Pavlo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned the word excited. I was getting excited when you were talking about your curriculum. It sounds like the same curriculum that I studied 3 years when I got my master's degree in reading through Oakland University. One component that you didn't mention was something that I focused on was individual learning styles for visual learning, tactile learning, and the multiple learning styles that people have. So my question, or my thought is, what are they now teaching in universities, and why do we have to duplicate this after the teachers are already in the classrooms? And I also want to mention that I still believe parents are the primary educators of their children, and we need to focus on that aspect also.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a holistic. If the parents and the teacher aren't on the same page, it divides the heart of the child. And the parent wants to reinforce the method that's being used in the classroom, and if it's an effective method, yes, please. Although I had mothers that talked to me and said, my first two children were taught with phonemic awareness and read great, and my third one ended up after this change. And so some of them said, well, the teachers still realized how important phonics was, so they slipped me a side book during parent-teacher conferences, said, use this, and then they'll really learn how to read, because they understood the difference. And she said then her kids could read. But yeah, it is a holistic kind of thing that you want to introduce with the kids, and helping them with the teacher is important. What was the other beginning of your question?
Just individual learning styles. I think that's an important component, because all students learn differently.
Right.
And teachers need to take that into consideration.
I know. You can stand on your head with, explaining things verbally to a kinetic learner, and it doesn't work. So, yeah. And I think that was part of what that one teacher was saying, that, this training helped me understand how to connect with the different types of learning, and understanding how the brain works in relation to reading is part of that too, I think. Because every child is different. So, yeah. Representative St. Germain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to piggyback off of what Rep. Pavlov asked, does anybody know if letters is being taught at the college level with an elementary education degree?
Yeah, no, it's not. Maybe it's may be taught somewhere, but overall, it hasn't been taught. And that's what we're going to introduce next week with Rep. Kelly's bill.
Okay.
That we don't want to train everyone and then keep graduating people that aren't understanding this. And right now, they use it as like in relation to a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
But why would you do it at a master's degree if you need it when you hit the ground running as a teacher,
Right.
So we're going to ask that it goes back into the undergraduate training. So they are no longer getting that whole language training. They're going to be getting the science of reading training.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Representative Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question. Again, I have a few other questions. So if you entertain me, we can also talk offline.
You're a lifelong learner. That's good.
Sure am. In the bill, because you mentioned the appropriation piece, my understanding is that when we write an appropriation piece into a statute bill, we can't bind future legislatures. And so usually the way we word it is subject to appropriation. But the way it's worded in the bill is the legislature shall annually appropriate an amount sufficient to comply with this section. I just worry that language itself will not be adequate in the future to actually require that. So I just wanted to flag that piece, maybe changing that to subject to appropriation.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. This is not final. We appreciate the input.
Yep. And again, also, I would appreciate clarity within the bill when we're talking about appropriation. Are we just talking about for letters, the cost of the letters training, or are we also talking about the cost of stipend for people's time? If that could be clarified as well.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. Yeah, we'll have to think about that as well.
And then again, and I asked this earlier, but just to put a finer point on it, when we're talking about the timeline for when people need to be trained, knowing that if this were to pass, and also if the Kelly bill were to pass and we're putting in the requirement for higher ed, there's still going to be a period where you're going to have people either coming from out of state or graduating who will not have had that training. Mm-hmm. So thinking through that transition period and how to word that within the bill so that if a district hires somebody in the summer of 2029,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to suddenly, take 160 hours worth of PD over the summer in order to comply with the law.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We want to address that in the other bill, so that'd be good to have input from you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Representative Kolzar.
Thank you. Being that Rep. Weiss just took like 3 of my 4 points, this won't take me that long. So,
Well, you're in sync.
So first of all, as the previous chair who, was elbows deep in this last term to pass the widespread bipartisan supported literacy package, I always felt it was a responsibility to make sure we give our teachers everything they need to make sure kids can be successful. So I appreciate the effort. That being said, you discussed your goal of having something ready to vote on next week. My heart goes out to you and your policy staff because there still is a lot of things that need to be done. The only thing that she didn't touch on that I want to go back to is the requirement for every teacher and administrator. When we think of certain administrators are not student facing, we also can think certain teachers, like there's a physical education teacher or a music teacher, art teacher. Will this training benefit them and those kids? Is it something they would use in their classroom? Just some things to think about when you're going through the process of updating and amending this bill. Just a couple points of thought. Again, I totally agree with the concept, but definitely a lot of work in the future to make sure we get this right, because this is so important. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate the spirit in which you say everything. It's an honor to have the former chair of the Appropriations Education Committee and the former chair of the Education Policy Committee and on board and helping us think all this through. Because it's a big deal and we don't want it to keep going the direction it's going. So when everybody leans in and we row together, it makes all the difference for the kids, right? Thank you so much. Now we have some cards. Representative Paquette.
Thank you,
please.
Madam
I
Chair.
didn't mean to skip you. Oh,
Hey,
he's a-
we've got some experience here.
Yeah. A late breaking, thank you.
To Rep. Pavlo's point, I'm teaching my 3-year-old how to read right now. It's going great. Precocious young lad. Got to brag about that. You know, a lot of fun. But, you know, to the point on parents, and, you know, oftentimes we put a lot of funding into training and make it all expensive and say we got to do all this. But I wonder if we could add some sort of resource for parents who would be willing to jump on board with this as well. Because the one-on-one, it's easy, it's fun, especially when they're that young. To get parents engaged in this as well. I think that's a worthy endeavor to maybe add to the conversation. So.
Yeah, I wonder if Letters has a little take-home version for parents. That'd be so great to give out at parent-teacher conferences, wouldn't it?
Well, my only gripe, I co-sponsored the bill, but my only gripe is that sometimes it's like, oh, you know, lobbyists get hired and this is the tool, right? And here's Marzano. Like this is what we have to put all our legislation into and draft it, and there it is, right? The golden bullet or the silver bullet. And I just wonder if there's a resource that we could get for free probably to parents out there that might be willing to jump on board with this to support from all ends.
Yeah, absolutely. To be the one that hears your child first read something is very inspiring. Yeah, and parents want the tools. They feel shut out sometimes, and it'd be great to include them as well. Absolutely.
To add on to that too, I know the Dolly Parton Imagination Foundation, they send books right out
Yeah.
and things like that. So I think there's a lot of ways that we could remedy this problem, you know, from all angles. So.
Yeah, great.
Shout out to Early On
Yes.
as well to help with that.
Yes, that's great. Wonderful. And we have Representative Pavlo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in response to Rep. Paquette, when I was president of Blue Water Reading Council, which is what International Reading Council, by the way, we would purchase books and then take them to the hospitals and give them to new moms to be able to read to their children. And we also encouraged them to read while they were carrying the child, because the child can hear your voice and it will develop an understanding of language even in the womb. So yeah, we can do a lot for parents, and that's maybe where we should be focusing on. Thank you.
Yeah, parents is the child's first teacher. Yes, thank you. And now we have a couple cards of people that would like to speak and support the bill in concept. The first one be Alicia Urbane, representing MAPSA.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Alicia Urbane with the Michigan Association of Public School Academies, and you heard me speak a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago about the important topic of literacy. I'm also proud to say that the second teacher featured in that video is a very dear friend of mine, Mary Bean. I did not know that she submitted the video, so I am super excited about that. Want to say today, we strongly support high-quality training for teachers, and Letters is widely viewed, as you saw in the video, as the most impactful professional development tool that's currently available today. Nearly every educator I speak to that's gone through agrees with this. I had a over 20-year teacher reach out to me on social media the other day saying, I just started Letters training and it's phenomenal. It should be PD for our teachers. It's training every teacher should have. And this is a teacher that's looking to retire in the next few years, but still investing her time to continue her training. Michigan, a couple things that came up as you were asking questions. Michigan has offered Letters training since 2021 as part of the budget. It's been free for every Michigan educator who has wanted to sign up. What Letters is not is a curriculum. Letters is teaching the teachers how to teach reading to kids, how their brains work. It's teaching things that they should have learned in teacher prep institutions, but teacher prep institutions moved away from it for whole language for a number of years. My friend Mary that was in that video is retiring at the end of this year with 30 years of experience. She was not taught this in teacher prep institutions. So even our most experienced teachers, like somebody said, sometimes they snuck phonics in for teachers that did understand it. It was not taught. And so letters training, while it is a acronym that is not in the actual bill, it's requiring high quality training. Letters right now is the only instrument out there that does this in a very thorough and with fidelity. So it's not just picking like Marzano or Danielson. It is a very different type of training, and it's very intensive, as we've talked about. This is a short-term problem because hopefully the teachers that come out of teacher prep institutions will be trained in this in the future, but we have to catch those that aren't up. However, what I actually came here to say is that while we believe in all of this, there are some logistical challenges that we look forward to working with the bill sponsor and the Department of Education to try to get these ironed out. Your timeline, while it seems far off, may be a little aggressive. If it takes 2 years to complete this training, you're looking at basically 1.5 cohorts that can get through it in that 3-year lead time. I also want to take note that implementation looks different for different types of teachers. So Montessori programs and teachers that have an interim teaching certificate have to do different types of an additional training already. So we, Michigan Association of Public School Academies, we run our own alternative path to teaching program. We have over 80 teachers that have completed it at this time. 250 teachers currently enrolled in actively working toward their certificate that are currently working on an interim teaching certificate. They work full-time. They have to do this 18-month alternative path program that is also very intensive. And now if you're putting the letters training on top of that, I don't think that the, let's say 30-year-old mom is, working mom is going to be able to do this. So let's look at some ways that we can incorporate letters training into the alternative certification path. And I think we will probably talk about, sounds like more about that next week, because the Kelly bill also, in addition to teacher prep programs, it also talks about that alternative path program. So I will have our director of our alternative path here next week to answer more questions and things about that. But that's an 18-month program. If you put letters on top of it, that's a 2-year program. You're not getting to your 2029 timeline. So, and then I would be remiss if I didn't throw in the Montessori. So, and I'm hoping that new Superintendent Maleko will continue to work on this. But currently, teachers that teach in a Montessori school have to have specific Montessori training. Michigan Department of Education does not recognize that as part of their teacher certification program. So they have to do both in separate paths. We'd like to find a way to do one, and then if you add, so if you're alternative pathway, a Montessori teacher, and letters training, that's a lot. It's about 6 years worth of work. So hopefully we can continue to work on that. And as I testified about a month ago, I think another round of incentives is not maybe better than pushing the mandatory right away. I also understand, though, that setting a finish line and staking that goalpost in the ground, especially with the political winds the way they are today on literacy, is important. So I just ask that let's look at what that appropriate finish line is on that date. And then I do believe that we need to compensate these teachers. It's not going to ever be a dollar for dollar for that 160 hours, but some type of stipend to show, because this is, I hear all the time, and I've heard from many of your colleagues, we require continuing education in other professions. This is unlike any other continuing education that you've seen. It's 160 hours worth of work. So I do believe that compensation, even in a small amount, a $1,000 stipend, a $5,000 stipend, that's what some of the schools have already done, maybe loosening up the requirements of the 31M grant or something else that's out there is important. And then somebody asked about the $5 million. The $5 million that's out there is just to get the remaining teachers through. It's in as a work project, so we know that over the next how many years we can get all of the remaining teachers through, so that we're not wondering year after year if it's going to be funded. So I think if we get this implementation right, we get the funding right, we get the logistics right, this training has the potential to make, in addition to the dyslexia legislation, I'd be remiss, that was a big piece, in addition to that, to make a real difference for teachers and students across Michigan.
Thank you. Appreciate your expertise, and we will definitely address your concerns. Thank you.
Is there any questions?
We don't really have time.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you. We would like to hear next from Christine Bolin and Kelly Kujala here from the Saginaw ISD, and they would like to speak. They support the bill. A short version, please, because we have another presentation yet.
Good morning. Thank you for giving us this time today. I'm Christine Bolin. I'm Director of Instructional Services at Saginaw ISD, and with me is Kelly Quiella, our Director of Coaching and Instruction. Saginaw Intermediate School District is a service agency supporting 12 traditional local school districts with over 40 schools. We also support 4 public school academies and several non-public schools. The Instructional Services Department is proud to offer services to all educators of Saginaw County. Our service leadership mindset empowers educators so that every student in Saginaw County can succeed. Additionally, in 2022, the Instructional Services Department adopted a literacy-first approach and shifted its focus to better support the county's youngest learners in reading. This was our new driving force, and all efforts have been aligned to this goal. Today, Ms. Quiella and I are here to testify on the transformative impact of the language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, known as LETRS, and why we believe every teacher deserves this knowledge.
I want to share our story just briefly with you. When I came to Saginaw ISD in October of 2022, we ensured that all 35A funded instructional coaches took LETRS. This was prior to the mandate from the law. We found that this was a very emotional experience. Dr. Maleko touched on that a little bit. As an educator, you're first thrilled that Michigan is investing in LETRS. It was something that was the gold standard. Other states were doing it, and it was a want. So your first chance of experiencing it is joy and aha, like, oh my gosh, this is why students cannot read. I'm learning about the reading brain. And then comes the shame and the guilt that you feel as an educator, and you start seeing students' faces, you remember their names, and you feel like you failed them. You feel like you did wrong by them because you didn't know better. And it's a very emotional experience. But then there's a resolution to that where you feel empowered and excited that you know better and you can do better, and you can make a difference still for those students that are in our programs today. So it's very transformative, it's very emotional. Dr. Maleko said he's met many people and teachers that have felt this way.
As Saginaw ISD has advanced in our understanding of the science of reading and continued to grow through LETRS training, Saginaw ISD was able to use 35J funding to expand our work around literacy. We required additional staff to take the training and were able to use funds to honor teachers' time and commitment to this intensive learning. Additionally, we built local capacity by investing in 4 Saginaw ISD coaches to become certified LETRS facilitators. These coaches are now leading efforts to produce face-to-face LETRS training for both early childhood and K-3 teachers within our county. These efforts enable ISD staff to give boots on the ground support. The coaches can walk alongside local district staff and apply the knowledge that coaches have gained from the training in real time. To ensure a birth to grade 5 continuum of expertise, ISD coaches have completed both LETRS K-5 and LETRS for early childhood.
However, our work didn't stop there. there is Letters for Administration. Both Chris and I took that program. We learned a lot about the systems and how to support our building leaders. Our building leaders cannot support our educators if they are not informed on the science of reading as well. So Chris has been leading groups in our county of administrators learning about the science of reading based on these, the information that we've learned through Letters for Administration. We're very proud of the impact that we've had in Saginaw County. We have not only supported teachers, we are supporting change at the top, starting with our administrators, and of course, we are trusting the science. So in conclusion, we want you to know that we fully at Saginaw ISD support this bill and all teachers in the state of Michigan to receive this training. We believe that this is a matter of equity. Students deserve to have teachers that understand how to teach reading, and so we need to provide that opportunity to them. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your transparency, and I can understand that emotional journey is very difficult, but we're on the right side and we're getting better, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Also, we have some cards from Molly Messick, who supports the bill, does not wish to speak. She's here for the Mackinac Center. And we have Melissa Horsty from MyLeap. She does not wish to speak but supports the bill. We have Beth DeShone from Michigan Forward Network. She supports the bill and does not wish to speak. That's it for those. And thank you so much, everyone that's been here to keep thinking about this and to keep working to do the very best we can for the students and their futures. Next, the committee will hear a presentation from Michigan FFA on their program, how it is interacting with the Michigan Merit Curriculum in areas that could be improved. Mark Forbush, who serves as the Michigan FFA State Advisor, is here to inform us. Thank you so much for waiting, and yeah, we'd love your type version, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The first thing that I want to do is I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm humbled that I get a chance to present on behalf of 10,000 FFA students and the teachers across our state. There's a tremendous amount of growth occurring with young people in career and technical education, and I just am just a piece of that window. I was a high school teacher for 30 years, and I've been in this position for 10. And so, and my role is kind of dual action with Michigan State University and MDE. So it allows me to kind of connect with the preparation of teachers and the students that are in the classroom. So it's a unique perspective I get to have. To give you some numbers real quick, 9 years ago we had 117 programs in Michigan with 127 teachers. We had about 7,500 kids involved. Starting this next fall, we'll have over 140 programs, 170 teachers, and over 10,000 kids involved. So our numbers are going in the right direction. Growth is an important piece, but intelligent growth is the most important piece. Getting a larger percentage of a smaller population will not meet the needs of an agricultural industry across our state. We need to keep growing the programs in different places to get more opportunities for students because the industry needs it, and it's an important industry in our state. So as we start to look for those areas, obviously that growth's great, but our mission's not finished. As I think about what we're doing to prepare students real quickly, agriculture as an industry needs people that come right out of high school to go to work. We need people that have gone to a 2-year program, a 4-year program. We need people that are willing to go to work before they take a shower and people that will go to work after they take a shower. We need all of those things. So the opportunities are there for young people if they can see them. So the goal is to find ways to have more of them see them. There's a lot of interest for those people if we make that happen. I guess one of the things I want to make sure everyone understands, in career and technical education, ag education specifically, is a 3-circle model that has 3 different pieces that are really critically important. Probably the one that most people see as the classroom component, and that happens, it happens in class. I think from the road, we see the leadership component, what happens in the FFA, and in the background, probably maybe the most important piece, is the supervised ag experiences or work-based learning where students take direct connection to business and industry and what's happening in the agricultural business and put it into practice. As we built those things, we know, for example, in that component alone, the economic impact from those students' SAEs this past year was $5.4 million. And so they're having an impact in what's happening in agriculture right now because they're putting right in and getting going. In that, we have students that do entrepreneurship where they're doing their own thing, placement where they're working for people, and the fastest growing area is agri-science research. One of the things I grew up on a dairy farm. One thing I know about ag people is they're willing to try a lot of different things. And so they're willing to experiment and see to find ways to move forward. And that spirit of that looking and experimenting is reflected in our ag programs to try and help our students grow. You know, when I think about the laboratory setting, one of the things that's unique about ag is if I'm talking about a program in machine and tool, everything that we use in that is a supply or piece of equipment that go inside of an existing building. A lot of the lab spaces for ag and natural resources are not inside the high school. I mean, you need a greenhouse, or you need a livestock, you need some place for kids to get hands-on training. We don't have as many students that grow up doing that already. It's unbelievable to watch their eyes and their minds grow when they get a chance to get their hands right involved in what's going on. You know, learning to do and doing to learn is what is the backbone of ag education. Again, we see the leadership component so often because we see our top kids. We brought 238 of them to the Capitol last week with our State FFA convention, and we were invited out on the House floor, and it's really awesome to watch the young people that come from all over the state, and well over half had never been to our state capitol, because I asked them that before they left. And so it was really cool to see their eyes light up. You know, FFA does that. But the key to leadership training doesn't happen with the kid that gives a speech. The key to leadership training, the key to FFA is how we help or develop our students in our classroom every day. We have to have them be individually ready to go. So am I responsible? Do I show up on time? Do I take care of things? Am I managing me first? Secondly, can I be a team member? Can I work well with others? By the way, if I can get every student to do that in our programs, we are way ahead. Because I don't know any business that doesn't want people that understand how to be responsible for myself and I can work well with others. Some of them will never feel confident to be in the seats that you sit in. Like they don't really want to be that person in charge or out in front taking on that lead. But let's be honest, the world needs all of those people, right? So if we can get kids to meet that bottom level, they will excel to that top level. We've watched it happen. So it's really cool when that takes place. And so I really want to stress that those three pieces are what make career and technical education and ag education so very important. You know, as we're trying to grow programs, when the person has the money, wants a program, we have one almost immediately. As I've started programs across our state, like if the person that holds a checkbook says we want an ag program, we start an ag program almost immediately. So it's really tricky to start one when that person doesn't want to start a program. And so some of the funds that were put together to allow schools to have the chance to have back, you know, some funding from our state to grow CTE across our state, I think is going to have a huge impact. I think ag education is uniquely focused to work with the middle school component that's new. And I am excited. I mean, I was a student in 1970, whatever, you don't need to know how old I am. And I was in an 8th grade exploratory ag class. I didn't sign up for high school ag. I lived on a dairy farm. I took an ag class. I didn't sign up for high school ag. My ag teacher found me and said, you should be in ag class. I'm 40 years into my career, right? Impacts are made because you build those relationships. We're ready to do that in the middle school, and we're ready to add that, and I'm excited about that piece coming on. I do know this. Kids don't all know what they're going to do in 8th grade, but some of them have decided what they're not going to do. And that SAE training, that hands-on learning, you should think of it as a cycle. I explore, I get aware, I explore, I try. I get aware, I explore, I try. You know, that cycle seems simple, but it's how we decide what we really want to do, sometimes by finding out what we don't want to do. Mm-hmm. I always said, as a guy that taught ag for 30 years, if I had $1 for every kid that was going to be a vet, we could all go to lunch today. Mm-hmm. Okay? In 30 years, I had 6. Okay? That's probably realistic of how many I should have had. Does that make sense? But the idea is they love animals, they just don't know where it fits. That's where ag education comes in, to have them see where that all fits. Mm-hmm. And all those pieces make that happen. In the high school, I really want to, I guess I'd say one thing that I think is really important is the curriculum that's in ag education covers everything from ag and natural resources all the way across that wide base. So it's a huge area for our young people to learn about and see opportunities in. And I think we're one of the best places to have STEM take place. I'll give you one example. Drone use. My son gave a speech on drones a few years ago. Okay? He was one of the state finalists. He came out and said, Dad, I'm done. I lost. How'd you lose? Did you blow your speech? No, I gave best speech I had. First person to ask questions took a lot of time to explain that drones were toys and probably wouldn't be used in agriculture. I said, well, we didn't do a good enough job of explaining about drones in your speech then, Kyle, because it isn't going to be just a toy and it's going to be used, and that we weren't prophets by any means. But when you're ahead of the curve in some of those things, some people need to be brought along. And so, anyways, knowing that, we had a nice grant that did some cool things. We got 25 teachers trained 2 summers ago to be licensed drone pilots and then put drones in their hands in their classrooms. Because I have 3 former students that make a living by flying drones and applying pesticides. So it's going to happen. By the way, there were no drones when I taught the class to those people, but they've adjusted, right? They've learned, they've adapted. And that's really the key to ag education. I guess I really would want to leave you with a couple things. The funds that have came towards our direction, or have come our direction from our legislature to focus on ag education, have had an unbelievable impact. The first round, we had 85 different programs that did capital improvements or capital construction in their programs. Dollars from CTE are a little bit unique in that they don't let you build or fix things like roofs. So if I have a greenhouse that's 25 years old and I need a roof, I can't use my CTE funds to do that. But those budgeted dollars and grants allowed that to happen. So we have new greenhouses, fixed greenhouses, new livestock facilities in 85 places across our state. You all can do the math. 85 is great, but that's not 140 some, right? So there's still room for us to keep working. But I would be remiss if I didn't say how much difference that made. And the other support that helped us lower dues costs and make us become an affiliated state. Now every student that takes ag class is an FFA member. It's an integral part of that class. It is not a club that teaches things separately. It's something that teaches kids while you're in the program and have that happen. Remember, I said in the classroom it starts with developing individual, and then can we be a teamwork? That's why it's so critical that it happens in that way. And so I guess finally my most important message is thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for supporting CTE and ag, food, and natural resource education across our state. But probably the biggest thank you is the constant focus that you have on doing what's best for kids, because I just watched that for the last hour. And so that was what my supervising teacher told me. I'll do what's best for kids. The rest will take care of itself. So I wanted to make sure I got that finished. I know you guys are on a tight schedule.
Thank you so much. Got a couple of questions. Representative Coons.
Madam Chair, thank you. So this FFA does not take any, it's not time outside of school. This is, these classes count towards their education? This is valid instruction time?
Without question. The Michigan Merit Curriculum information was one of the things you asked me to talk about. I have a note on that. I just was trying to get done so I could finish for you guys. But the Leveraging Career and Technical Education Support Implementation for the Michigan Merit Curriculum, ag education is a unique situation that if you take and cover about 1 year of our curriculum, it matches up 100% with life science next generation science students.
Got it.
I taught ag for 30 years. I had kids that tell me I learned more chemistry in your room than I did in chemistry class. It's really impactful when I can show you how the cation exchange capacity in the soil and the charges in the soil make differences for how those nutrients are uptaken by the plant. And it's not just a problem that solves how I balance an equation. Mm-hmm. It's what makes an impact in that plant growing. And so, yes, without question, it makes a difference.
Thank you.
Yes. And Representative Fox.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And I've watched one of those drone demonstrations. I think that the ones I saw could lift a horse.
Yeah.
And they were huge drones. Yeah.
Yeah, they're big.
But this is kind of a question and a suggestion at the same time. You know, I saw your ag students, your FFA students passing through last week, and I was reading the names on the backs of their coats, and many of them were my constituents. Can you connect these FFA kids with us as legislators? I mean, have them come to our office, have them sit and talk with us. I was just yelling out Fremont, Nuevo, you know. I'm from that neck of the woods, and we have lots of FFA going on there, and would love to have that type of conversation. It would be fun.
I appreciate that. We'll do our best to make some of those connections happen. I know that at our state convention, we had 2,300 kids that registered and over 3,000 that attended. And so the schedule to recognize those people, I shook 1,500 hands on the stage, okay? In order to have time to recognize them for all of the things that they've done. By the way, it's a battery charger for an old guy like me. watch all these kids succeed and then come in. Whew, that's cool stuff. So we want to have them to have time with you, and we want to make sure we find time to recognize their work too. But we'll definitely work towards that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My husband was at a consumer electronics show way back when, and I think it was Bill Gates who came out on the stage and said, someday everyone will have their own phone, and everybody just kind of chuckled. So your son experienced that early. Yeah.
Well, that's reality, isn't it?
I know. We laugh at what becomes reality many times, and it's good to learn from each other. Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for all you're doing for kids and for the future of agriculture, one of our top 3 industries in the state, one of our top 3 things. So thank you so much, feeding the world.
I appreciate all your time and all the support that we've had. It's made a big impact.
Thank you. There being no further business. We did have an absent member. Vice Chair Linting moves to excuse absent members. There being no objection, absent members are excused. And there being no further business before the committee, the House Committee on Education and Workforce will stand adjourned.